Southern Cameroonians, my fellow countrymen and women, dear well-meaning citizens of the free world. Today is the 16th of February, the year of our Lord, 2020. My name is John Baakuro. I come today to communicate to the people of the Southern Cameroons and to our sympathizers all over the world, to human rights defenders all over the world, to defenders of freedom and self-determination all over the world. I come today with a very heavy heart. I'm still gripped by shock and consternation at the scale of the massacre, the genocide that is ongoing in the Southern Cameroons. What has exacerbated this situation and my state of mind this day is, I am a bit lost of words because I'm still trying to get that word that would truly express what happened in Ngarbuh, in Donga County of the northern zone of the Southern Cameroons. That over 35 people, including babies as old as 4 days only, pregnant women, little children, very old people were all gathered, put together, and shot as if it was a movie, killed like that in cold blood. Their entire earnings destroyed, their houses burned, and their corpses have now been put in mass graves. And while that happens, the world has remained silent. That incident comes on the heels of one, because that one occurred on the 14th, on Valentine's Day, on a day where the world is talking love, on a day where the world is talking compassion, on a day where the world is talking, sharing emotions that bring joy. That is the day that Mr. Paul Biya's death machine is unleashed on whole families. I was just talking with a sister in Yaoundé who lost 9 members of her family in that massacre. And the government of La République du Cameroun, as we hear from an audio by a citizen of La République du Cameroun who is completely frustrated and shocked at that scale of inhumanity, that they are going out there to pay newspapers, to pay media organs in that country, to come out this Monday the 17th of February, with articles attributing those acts to self-defense volunteers of the Southern Cameroons. Whereas we are aware that the story behind this thing is that the government of La République du Cameroun suspected that those people were family members of some of the young people involved with self-defense activities in the territory, defending their communities against the onslaughts of the murderous army of Mr. Paul Biya. And today, that same government wants to turn around and give the impression that these boys and girls decided to slaughter their own family members in cold blood to attract world sympathy, or on claims that they voted at elections that nobody even bothered or cared about. Statistics have demonstrated that at least 98% of our people never participated at those elections because they are disgusted at what is unfolding on our territory from a people who had claimed for over 58 years that they were our brothers and sisters. I am shocked, I am ashamed, I'm disgusted at the scale at which some people want to go out there to justify such destruction, such rampageous killing on human beings, on innocent babies who don't even know what is going on even unborn babies who are only begging to come into the world. And when all this is going on, the United Nations is maintaining suspicious silence. I remember 5 months back, when I was interacting with some members of government of La République du Cameroon who are still sitting ministers as we speak, they boasted that the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has helped Mr. Paul Biya build a solid diplomatic firewall around his atrocities, and that nothing that they do will ever attract any sanctions from anywhere, because the whole thing has been insulated, and that France is taking care with its veto to make sure that nothing passes at the UN Security Council concerning the situation in the Cameroons. That minister made clear that Mr. Antonio Guterres had rather promised to use the good offices of the United Nations to get international public relations firms to continue to spray perfume, to continue to spray the shine on the sheet of Mr. Paul Biya on the ground. And so he concluded that they are licensed to kill as many of us as possible, as long as they do not succeed to impose their rule on the people of the southern Cameroons. So we can all see for ourselves right now that Mr. Paul Biya is using that window because he knows, he is aware that the United Nations, the international community, will do nothing about their so-called never again policy. And that until he would have succeeded to kill at least 300,000 to 400,000 southern Cameroonians, would anybody raise the small finger. So Mr. Paul Biya is aware, and he's making use of that license, making use of that window. That is why our people are being roasted alive like they roast plantains. That is how our people are being killed like flies. That is why Mr. Paul Biya is proving to all beyond reasonable doubt that southern Cameroonians' lives don't matter anymore, and the world is watching helplessly. On the contrary, the world superpowers are knocking at Mr. Biya's doors to ask to sign contracts for natural resources on the territory of the southern Cameroons. Oh yes, that is the bribe Mr. Paul Biya has to give to the international community so they allow him to exterminate us at will. My dear people, I have had occasion to draw the attention of the people of the southern Cameroons that we are locked up in an existential battle. We are on our own. From all indications, we are on our own. Nobody cares. Our lives do not mean anything as long as they get their businesses, as long as they're able to get their contracts on Mr. Paul Biya, as long as Mr. Guterres can continue to have his golden statues from Mr. Paul Biya, as long as Patricia Scotland, whom I understand has now just been suspended as Secretary General of the Commonwealth, can continue to get their goodies from Mr. Paul Biya, as long as France can be assured of unfettered access to our natural resources, our lives don't matter. Mr. Paul Biya can continue to kill us for his sport. This is shameful, an embarrassment to all that the United Nations claims to stand for. This is shameful, an embarrassment to all that the Commonwealth of Nations seeks to stand for. This is an embarrassment and shocking for all that the African Union seeks to stand for. Are Southern Cameroonians human beings? Were we all created by God with a right to live? Does the Universal Declaration of Human Rights apply to the people of the Southern Cameroons? These are questions I address to Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and to all the leaders of the free world. If our lives really do matter, then show it. If the Universal Declaration of Human Rights also applies to the people of the Southern Cameroons, this is the time to show it. When it happened in Rwanda, world leaders ran left and right to shout, never again. We will never sit and watch it happen. But this is it again, unfolding before their very eyes. Whole communities being razed down by fire on a daily basis. Whole families exterminated. Babies as young as 4 days old who do not even know what is happening are being killed with live bullets, pelted into their bodies 15, 16 times non-stop. And yet, no one is saying a thing. Again, I'm shocked and embarrassed at the total silence that we get on the other side of the Mongol. Some in our communities, including me, have always said, no, what is happening are the exactions of the authoritarian government of Mr. Paul Biya, and that the vast majority of the citizens of La République du Cameroon do not share or believe in what is happening on our territory, that they do not abate it. But my dear brothers and sisters, the loud silence that we're hearing from the other side of the Mongol speaks volumes. It tells more than enough that the people of La République du Cameroon in their vast majorities now truly consider that we are animals, that we are flies deserving to die in any scale as long as the interests of their country, La République du Cameroon, are protected. I had occasion to listen to one Professor Nyamsi who speaks on YouTube and on Facebook. And this is what I gathered from Professor Nyamsi's outing of the 14th of February, 2020 on YouTube. This is what he said, that he encourages the people of the Southern Cameroons to do all in our power to chase Paul Biya away from power quickly to give them room to install Mr. Kamto as their president. He goes on, and that as long as that is what we want to do, we have the backing of all the citizens of La République du Cameroon. And that as soon as we achieve that mission, we should simply resubmit ourselves to them under Mr. Kamto as their slaves. But that if we dare, after succeeding in chasing Mr. Paul Biya away, to say we now want to go our separate way and live in dignity like human beings, they will use their crushing majority of La République du Cameroon to unleash a new carnage all over on us. It is on YouTube. Just go and search Professor Nyamsi. He is fair in complexion. This tube was published on Friday, the 14th of February. It is still there. That is a clear message enough that for the people of La République du Cameroon, for the average citizens of La République du Cameroon, we are not human beings. All we are good for, all we are good for is to sacrifice our lives so that they live a better life. The same Professor Nyamsi unleashed insults upon insults like I've never imagined on Mr. Frundi, the chairman of the SDF. He insulted Mr. Frundi like a common highway robber, made fallacious and unacceptable claims. This is someone who won elections in that country in 1992, and the whole world acknowledged that he won. Even Mr. Paul Biya's government that decided to change the results of those elections. Even the president of his Supreme Court, Alexis de Pandamwele, made clear that he had noticed irregularities, but his hands were tied. That is the same man that Nyamsi derided like a rat. But that should be a lesson to Mr. Frundi and all those politicians of Southern Cameroon's origin who continue to believe that they represent anything in the eyes of the people of La République du Cameroon. I think Mr. Frundi and his SDF party kept claiming that they were a national party, reason they will not go out there to spearhead the struggle, to spearhead the liberation movement of the people of the Southern Cameroons, so that they should at least live in dignity like humans, in total self-determination, because he claimed that he had a lot of support from the people of La République du Cameroon. Now that is a lesson to Mr. Frundi and all of those cohorts, that as soon as the people were able to use him, and today they have their own person that they think has popularity enough, that is why Mr. Frundi and all of his folks are now completely useless. This will be the fate of even all of those who sit in the CPDM and participate and favor the extermination of their own people. You will never be considered a full human being. You will always remain half a human being in the view of these people. I had a good friend who, until this morning, he is from La République du Cameroon. We exchanged a lot, share a lot of sympathy about how this whole thing needs really to remain peaceful and how we should be able to attain an objective solution where the two peoples live in peace. But this morning I was horrified that he came out to justify the killing of over 35 people, including babies, pregnant women, and the likes. And he said Perhaps if exterminating them will restore order, then it makes a lot of sense. And for the first time, I came to terms with the fact that, like the Lord God said in Sodom and Gomorrah, he didn't find a single righteous person, that it is going to be very difficult to find anyone on the other side of the Mongo who truly and sincerely believes that the people of Southern Cameroons are human beings. It may become very easy to pass an elephant through the eye of a needle than to really find somebody across the Mongo who believes that the people of the Southern Cameroons are human beings and should be treated in total dignity. My dear people, this is reason more than ever before for us to go out there continually in huge numbers and demonstrate and continue to call the attention of the world. What is happening on the ground is radicalizing many more of our young people, and this doesn't foretell good in the future. When the consortium sent out a press release this morning, calling on the international community, on the United Nations, to order an investigation into what happened in Ngarbuh, the reaction from some of our compatriots was, those people don't listen anymore, Mr. Akuro. Go out there and campaign that our people should contribute money to buy guns. I bleed in my heart as I hear and read such messages. The world is attempting to convince the people of the Southern Cameroons that the only way we can do it will be to go the violent way altogether. By its attitude, the world is convincing the people of the Southern Cameroons more and more that the only route is sliding into a full-blown civil war. I weep as I hear these things, because I still believe firmly that this can be achieved otherwise. I still believe firmly that we could do it without guns. What has the world come to? Do international instruments matter? Now, we are going to wake up this Monday morning to articles in multifarious newspapers from La République du Cameroun claiming that Southern Cameroonians self-defense volunteers slaughtered 45 or 42 of theirs in cold blood, including babies and pregnant women, because they went out to vote. That is the manipulation. Newspapers and a good lot of media organs in La République du Cameroun have clearly shown to the rest of the world that they are not worthy of the calling, that they are not worthy of the salt, that they do not deserve to be called press men and women. And this is shameful. This is embarrassing. The role of the press, as I know, for having worked for 19 years as a journalist, is to be the conscience of the society, is to be the watchdog on the powers that be, is to call out the authorities on such evil excesses that threaten the well-being of humanity. Alas, no. Once money comes out of the coffers of Mr. Paul Biya through Atang and G. Paul and others, the golden principles of journalism are simply thrown aside. My dear people of the Southern Cameroons, as you watch this video, share it, share it, share it as much as you can. Let this message get to the world powers just before these papers come out, so that they know that we are aware, so that they know that we can no longer be manipulated. To God be the glory.